you doing, Matt?
Nice to meet you, Corin. How are you?
Good to see you. Is that a Nightbreed poster you got over there?
That is, got
Uh,
Nightbreed. I need to
yeah.
change this one out because it's well
Monster
past
Squad.
Christmas time. But
Yeah. No, I'm digging it. And then Monster Squad, is that?
yep, and then Demons,
Yeah.
and this is a bunch of different Freddy Kruegers fighting each other to the death. So
Wow, that's cool. I would have a much more interesting background if I was in my studio at home, but I'm in LA in a hotel room, so I only have that blood splat on the wall.
no worries, it's perfectly on brand, right? It's a little ominous, a little weird. But appreciate you. So I'm gonna go ahead and hit record on my end. If oh, you already got recording, Kaylee, never mind.
Yeah.
So I'll do my quick intro. Hello, fiends, friends, and familiars. This is Matt Orozco here from Macabre Daily, and I'm joined today by director Corin Hardby in support of his latest film, Whistle, which will be out in theaters on February 6th from Independent Film Company. So, Corin, thank you so much for being here.
Lovely to meet you and be talking to you today.
Oh, it's my pleasure, and I got to say, congratulations on Whistle. Had an immense amount of fun with the film,
Thank
and
you.
I feel like you channeled a lot of your inner Nightmare on Elm Street a little bit in parts of this.
I
Um,
100% did do that.
and in the best way possible. But
Yeah.
my first question is just more kind of the background of how you got introduced to the script from Owen. You know, what was your first reaction when you read it, and what excited you about his material?
Thank you. Yeah, I received Owen's Whistle script, which was a an adaptation of his own short story called Untimely, and I was taken by I think by three things to begin with that sort of signed me onto it. The first was this like really I felt simple and elegant and chilling mythology surrounding this ancient
Oh, that's so cool. You've got it.
first object. I brought it to show you there. So, this death whistle, which I had heard of, but I wasn't really sure if it was real or whether Owen had made this up or what. But the this idea of an ancient cursed object that when you hear its sound, it calls upon your future death to hunt you down, was something which immediately appealed as sort of like, well, I've not seen a movie based around this particular object. We've seen the Ring VHS tape that if you watch it, we've seen Hellraiser configuration box but so that was one of the main things. And the other two were the sort of it was balancing a really heartfelt kind of tragic romance love story throughout the movie, which in a sort of teenage angst it was I could tap into my sort of teenage years and heartbreak in American high school movies, which was also something I suppose I'd secretly harbored the idea that I would one day make an American high school movie, and this could be it. And the last thing was the deaths, which was, or I've been calling them perishments. There was a number of perishments, and they were all quite imaginative and creative, and they tapped into that mythology. And so the idea of sort of bringing them to life or death was appealing to me.
Yeah, well, I think one, the American high school film feels like something that so many of us grew up with a foundation of our film understanding as being like Fast Times at Ridgemont High and Weird Science, where it's kind of like, oh,
Yeah,
this is what high school's supposed to be like. But
yeah,
at the same time, you bring in a lot of like the story brings a lot of Final Destination into the mix, but also with this kind of supernatural element. And so I think you did a splendid job of one tapping into that American high school feel, but also not falling victim to kind of the saccharine nature of some of those movies and making it much more grounded in the realism that being a teenager kind of sucks.
yeah.
And, it's a difficult time in one's life.
Yeah, I mean it was important. I didn't want to make a movie where, everyone's just sort of snarky and hates each other. And I wanted to sort of hang out with a group of kids at that time in their lives when it's already quite a difficult, confusing time. And actually in the fictional town of Pellington where they are, it's already like their lives are a bit like laid out for what they think they're going to be. So even if they hadn't had this death curse hunting them down, they might not have made it out of this place alive. And it was that kind of like, disaffected youth and this being able to create a world around that atmosphere and those feelings that you have, and being in love with a girl who's not really even going to look at you, and pouring your heart out and having it broken. That was all quite sort of as important in a way as the horror of the movie.
Well, and you're no stranger to folk horror. I mean, with having done The Hollow in the past and also The Nun, which very much is kind of a religious folk horror film in of
Yeah.
itself. But I think you bring so much, there's no connectedness between these films aside from the fact that they're all really good. And so
Very kind.
I think you've done a fantastic job of diversifying just the way in which you can tell a folklore story from different perspectives. And I love that you brought the whistle with you because one of the things that stood out from the film was not just the design of the whistle itself, but also the practical effects that get deployed here. I mean, as horror fans, we are always kind of driven to trying to seek out how
Yeah.
much of this is practical or not. So I'm curious to know when you're working with the effects team, at what points were you making decision to say this has to be practical versus this is the part we're going to augment CGI with?
Yeah, thank you, man. It's a big part of, for me, I grew up in the 80s. I wanted to be a monster maker. I was making monsters from the age of 12 and wanting to do, making Super 8 films. And it's still the thing that gets me excited, and I think it is that dream that we all had. I think when we watched the movie at the cinema and it captivated us, whether it was a horror movie or Indiana Jones or whatever. But it was like the magic of things which don't aren't really there and making them real. So practical effects is always heavily in my DNA, and I like to do anything for real, whether it's shooting on real sets with real stunts and real practical effects. It's always more interesting. It's more fun to do. It's more humanly connective, and I think it comes across more powerfully on screen. And I don't get turned on when I see a visual effect that's I can tell isn't real. No disrespect, because I use a lot of visual effects as well. But with Whistle, it's a very sort of visceral, tangible, tactile movie with lots of details in the art department, the production design, and the world, and the effects needed the same thing. So, really, when I laid out all of those different perishments, there's a number of them. Probably you can count on a couple of hands worth. And it was like, let's start everything as practically as possible, and different ones are going to have different amounts of visual effects according to how they end up and how much you see. And I'm a firm believer in not going too far with practical effects to the point where you blow the illusion. But I'm also a firm believer that you shouldn't just use CGI and visual effects because it sort of takes away the grounded nature. So I think there's a natural kind of limit in some ways, but it changed depending on what the death was and how much we were going to see. So there's some in there which have, almost all in camera prosthetics, animatronics, puppetry. They have doubles and contortionists and contortionist doubles. And then, of course, there's visual effects to take over and help remove wires or take over some transformations and things like that.
Well, I think you blended it perfectly. And again, I think there's a particular scene involving a car crash, we'll call it, that is just needs to be seen to be believed. And my last question for you, Corin, is a bit of a fun one. Is if you were asked to program a double feature with Whistle, what do you think would make a really good pairing to go along with it?
Thank you. That's a tempting question, man. I think it would have to be it would have to be maybe I can do three screenings with three movies paired. So one would definitely be The Lost Boys, which was a big it was the movie I saw when I was 14 years old that absolutely kind of like it was like, this is me, this is my friends, we are the Lost Boys. It was so kind of fun, chaotic, great horror, great sort of comedy within it, but also the way these teenage characters and their sort of the look of them, the rock of it all. So one would be Lost Boys, another would be The Blob,
The
which
remake or the original?
it would be the remake. It would be the Chuck Russell Blob, which is also incredible practical effects, is underrated and doesn't get spoken about enough. For me, it's sort of uh, up there. It's an American high school movie. It has a similar like roller coaster ride, fun, colorful, and very solid kind of storytelling with some good rug pulls as well. And then my third one would be a triple bill with Nightmare on Elm Street and The Dream Warriors and Whistle.
Ooh.
because the Dream War Nightmare on Elm Street's the best, but the Dream Warriors is was also a similar year, like I think it's 1987, 1989. That kind of era was I suppose where Whistle probably spiritually comes sort of from. And yeah, the practical nature of things and the imagination of it as well. So I'll go with those, but there's quite a few others I'd love to play with.
Well, two Chucko Russells in there is not bad by any means. And
Chuck Russell, yeah.
and Corin, I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time to chat. I could probably talk to you for much longer, but you've got a lot of people to talk to today. And I want to remind everyone watching this, Whistle out February 6th. Blow the whistle, seal your fate. Who knows what'll happen? Thanks so much,
All right.
Corin.
Nice one, Matt. See you.
Take care of yourself, and thanks again.